Have you lost interest in quilting traditional quilt blocks, but nervous about trying something new like an odd-shaped block? Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to cut odd-shaped quilt pieces using the Accuquilt system. My name is Tammy. Thanks for tuning in. Now let's get into it.
Hooray!
Before we get into it, let me explain to you why I chose to use the Accuquilt cutting system. I absolutely despise using rotary cutters and rulers. No matter what I tried, no matter what tools I used, my pieces always came out wonky. And therefore, when I sewed wonky pieces together, it made a wonky block. So I was done with all that. I decided to make the investment in the Accuquilt cutting system, and this block is what I'm going to be showing you how to piece together in today's video. I'm using the Accuquilt Go Big cutter. I also have a Go Me that I use as well on occasion, but personally I like the Go Big because it's electric and it's much easier and more enjoyable to cut on. So we are going to make this block. And I am only using 3 dies. I'm using the mix and match set along with the companion pieces, particularly the angle set. So we're going to use shape number 5, which is in the main mix and match, and it is the half square triangle, HST. And we're going to use shape number 14, which is from the angles companion set, and it's called the triangles in the square, and it looks like this. And I'm also using an actual square, and it's shape number 2, and it is from the basic mix and match box set, and it looks like this. So once these elements are sewn together, the half square triangles get sewn to the square, and that creates what I call a subunit. These 2 pieces will get sewn together here, and this is the second subunit. Once all these elements are sewn into subunits, I will sew this subunit and this subunit together to make basically the block. And so, as you can see, once those subunits and elements are sewn together, you basically rotate it around and then sew it together, and now you have this finished block. So as you can see here, I have pieced together the elements, and I've created these what I call subunits to this block. So the trickiest part of this quilt block is to make sure that you arrange all these pieces in order. And I'm going to show you how I do that right now. So as you can see here, I've arranged all the subunits into essentially like quarter sections. So this is a quadrant or a quarter section. This is a quadrant. Here's another quadrant, and here's the 4th quadrant. So in order to complete this block, I need to piece these subunits to that one, this here, and this here, etc. So first, I'm going to piece this part to that part to that part, etc. Here is the tip that I've learned. When putting this block together, it is very important to pin, and I'll show you why. So as you can see here, it's kind of arranged in the perfect order. But as I piece the sections together, if I don't pin correctly, or if I don't sew it together, when I'm done, the pieces can be out of order, and then you have to use the seam ripper to undo the whole thing, and it's just a hot mess. So what I've learned to do is to, as I fold this over like that, I know that this is my seam side. So what I do, once I flip it over and I know I need to sew my seam here, I just kind of line it up and I insert a pin so that it looks like this. So when I go to my machine, I know that the seam goes here and I don't turn it around and sew it in the wrong direction. So that's just my little hack or my tip to make sure you maintain the orientation of these subunits. So this and that, I need a seam line there, so I'm going to put that there, and then when I pin it, I am going to pin this way to remind me the seam side goes this way. Now another tip is, once you do that, do not flip-flop around, because if you, even though you pinned it in the right direction, if you flip-flop and sew flip-flopped, that can be disaster, because your pieces will be out of orientation and you'll need to use the seam ripper to pull it up and start all over again. So that's why I try to remember to put my sharp side of my pen going towards the needle of the machine, and always remember to use this circle to maintain my orientation. So the square and the half square triangles have been sewn together, and so again you have a more complete look at the elements that create the subunit. So from here, I'm going to sew these 4 quarters together. So I'm going to flip, the seam needs to go here. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to kind of roughly get my points to match. And as you can see right here and here, I'm just pinning so that those points match up. And I am going to, again, put my pin so that the needle section is facing the needle of the machine, and the seam will go here. And I'm going to do that for all 4. Here are the subunits sewn together to make 4 quadrants. When I pieced together the elements to make the subunits, I pressed my seams open, as you can see here. The seams are pressed open. However, once I pieced together the subunits, once that was done, I pressed the seams to whatever side it wanted to go to, honestly. I didn't get too particular about pressing to the light side or pressing to the dark side. So as you can see here, these seams are open, and then the seam that connects these 2 subunits is pressed upward, if you will. Okay, so let me show you on this one as well. These seams are open, and then this seam that connects these 2 subunits are pressed to the left. Now what needs to happen is that these 2 quadrants need to be sewn together. So I'm going to flip this way, line up my edges, place a pin, and I'm going to put a 1/4 inch seam right here. On this one, the seam needs to go here. So I'm going to flip my quadrant on top of the other one. And here, I don't want to rotate it. Remember I said, be careful not to do that. But when I get to the machine, I'm going to try to make sure that these points are a little more aligned, but just for transportation purposes, taking the pin and inserting it this way. So I'm going to go to the machine, put those seam lines in, and then show you what happens next. So as you can see here, the 2 quarters have been sewn together to make a half. And then these 2 quarters were sewn together to make another half. So in order to finish off this block, what needs to happen is this seam needs to go this way. So I'm going to do that. And since there's only 2, I'll remember that I need to sew down this way. So I'm going to go to the machine, sew this up, press it up, put a clapper on it, and show you what the finished block looks like. So there you have it. Here's the finished block. It looks beautiful. What I did was, again, I pressed it flat. I used a clapper to lay on top of the seam so that the seams were flat. I squared it up by trimming off all those loose threads that you saw earlier. There's some, but hey, that's okay. And then here's the back of it. So as you can see, these seams are pressed open. However, this one large seam here is pressed to the other side. And there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe so that you can see the other 4 blocks being made. And then also make sure that you're subscribed so that you can see the final bed runner that I am attempting to make. Thanks. Bye.